Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
You've spent 3 weeks perfecting a ChatGPT prompt. You've tweaked the temperature settings. You've added role play scenarios. Maybe you've even thrown in some think step-by-step magic type of words. And you know what happened? The AI still gave you something mediocre, something you could have written yourself, something that just doesn't make you money. I don't know, seems like everyone's obsessed with the prompt, the perfect prompt, the viral prompt. But here's what no one is talking about. A great ChatGPT prompt working inside of a broken system is just expensive busy work. You're not losing money because your prompts suck. Well, maybe you are. You're losing money because you're not building a system at all.
The Dark Horse Entrepreneur Podcast.
What is up? What is up? What the hell is up, my Dark Horse friends and family? Welcome back to another episode of the Dark Horse Entrepreneur AI Escape Plan, where we break free from the grind, share some AI-powered tips and side hustle strategies, all designed to support my parents out there chasing freedom like modern-day trailblazers. And if you know someone that dreams of ditching the grind but still makes time for bedtime stories, go ahead and forward this episode to him, would you? Okay, so let's get stuck right in. The difference between someone making, pocket change a month with AI and someone making life-changing money a month. They're doing things like selling digital products on Gumroad, running AI copywriting services on Fiverr, or building automated content pipelines for clients on Upwork. It's not better prompts, it's architecture. It's the invisible scaffolding underneath that turns a single output into a repeatable machine. And the moment you understand that very distinction, everything can change. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. Right now, you're probably running a linear flow. You prompt, you get an output, and maybe you edit it and you publish. It's simple. It feels productive. It isn't, because every single output is a one-off miracle, and you can't scale a miracle. You can't even automate a miracle. You can't build a business on miracles. You can only build one on systems. People making real money with AI, people pulling in life-changing money a month using OpenAI's tools, aren't writing better prompts than you. They're not smarter than you, and they're not luckier than you. They've just moved past the prompt creating phase entirely. They've architected what I'm going to call a logic flow, a layered system where each AI interaction feeds right into the next one, where each stage has a specific purpose, and where the final output is so refined, so targeted, so genuinely useful to their audience that it practically sells itself. Think of it as a prompt chaining at scale, but with intentional architecture laid underneath. And here's where it's going to get a little uncomfortable. Most side hustlers will not ever build this, because building a logic flow requires you to stop chasing that quick win. It requires you to pause and think like a systems engineer instead of just a content creator. And I am not throwing any hate on my content creators out there. It's just a different mindset entirely. Their first layer of a logic flow is what I call the input architecture. This isn't about writing a better prompt. This is about deciding what information actually needs to go into the AI before it can produce something valuable. You see, most people feed their AI garbage and then blame AI for the garbage output. Remember the old statement from way back? I've been around since computers came online. It's called GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. They dump in a vague idea into ChatGPT and wonder why it sounds so generic. Well, it sounds so generic because they fed it generic ingredients. If you have an amazing recipe and you use shit ingredients, guess what? It's going to taste like caca, okay? Input architecture means you gather, organize, and structure the raw material before the AI ever sees a single piece of it. If you're writing sales copy, you don't tell AI to, quote, write me copy, unquote. You feed it the exact target customer's pain point, not the industry pain point, the customer's pain point. 3 competing products that they've probably looked at, the specific objection that they have voiced the most, the transformation they're hoping to get, and the one thing that they'll never admit they want. That is input architecture. That's why that copy makes money and someone else's don't. Now, here's the second layer, the instruction hierarchy. What professionals call a system prompt structure, or in more technical terms, multi-step workflow design. And this is where most people fundamentally misunderstand what a prompt actually is. You think a prompt is instructions. It's not. A prompt is a compressed version of a much larger instruction system. When you write me a blog post about productivity, you're compressing about 15 different decisions into one single sentence. And the AI has to guess what the hell you mean. And it will most likely guess wrong because it has to guess. And an instruction hierarchy means you break those compressed decisions back apart, right? You just split them up. First instruction, decide on the purpose of this output. Is it to sell? Is it to educate? Is it to build authority? Or is it to go viral? Those are four completely different directions. Second, define the format restrictions. What's the length, the structure, what reading level? Third, define the voice and the tone. And you do this by referencing specific examples that the AI can see, not just by adjectives, okay? And then fourth, define what success looks like, not be informative. That's useless. But something like the reader should feel like that you've solved a problem they didn't even know they had. And fifth, define what absolutely cannot happen. What mistakes would tank this output completely? That's not one prompt. That, my friends, is a system. The third layer is where the real money starts to appear. It's the feedback loop architecture, and it's the part that turns a decent output into an actual profitable output. See, you can't improve what you can't measure. Most side hustlers write something, publish it, and then they never look back. They'll do this 50, 60, 100 times and wonder why 2 of them worked. They never ran a feedback loop. A feedback loop means that you take every single output and you measure it against what actually happened. Did it sell? Did it get shared? Or did it tank? Then you feed that performance back into your system to improve the next iteration. But here's the twist. You're not feeding the data back into the prompt. You're feeding it back into the input architecture. You're asking, what information did I have when I created the output that correlated with success? And you start collecting that information more systematically. Maybe you notice that outputs based on your direct customer interviews outperform outputs based on industry research by 340%. So now you've architected a system where every output is preceded by a customer interview phase. That's how you scale. Most people never get to this point because this point right here requires discipline. You have to actually track what works. You have to actually be honest when something of yours bombs. You have to actually invest time in analysis instead of just creating more content and throwing it up against the wall and hoping. The fourth layer is what separates the side hustlers from the actual business builders. It's the output stacking architecture. And this is where one AI output feeds into another one, and that one feeds into another one, where the AI becomes not a content machine, but a content manufacturing plant. When you connect this into automation tools like Make or Zapier or N8N, it stops becoming a manual process entirely. It becomes a passive income engine that runs whether you're working on it or not. Here's how it could work in practice. You prompt ChatGPT to research your market and produce 3 customer personas using one of the models. That's output 1. Then you feed those personas into a second prompt that generates 10 pain points for each of those personas. That's output number 2. And then you feed those pain points into a third prompt that generates positioning statements. Then a fourth prompt generates objection handles for each positioning statement.
The Dark Horse Entrepreneur Podcast.
You know what stops most people from building something online? Not talent, not ideas, not even money. It's friction. Seriously, you've got an idea for a business, a side hustle, maybe a service you want to offer, and suddenly you've got 14 tabs open asking, which website builder? Which domain? Do I need email? Hosting? Why does this suddenly feel like I'm assembling IKEA furniture without instructions? 3 hours later, still no website, still thinking about it. That's why I like Hostinger. Hostinger makes getting started ridiculously easier because everything lives in one place. Your website, domain, email, the whole deal. And this part is wild. The AI actually helps build the first version of your website for you. You literally describe what you want, and boom, you're not staring at a blank screen anymore. Look, if you've been sitting on an idea, stop letting setup friction beat you. Go to hostinger.com/darkhorse20 and use code darkhorse20 for 20% off. That's hostinger.com/darkhorse20. Build the thing. Stop overthinking the thing. You know what stops most people from building something online? Not talent, not ideas, not even money. It's friction. Seriously, you've got an idea for a business, a side hustle, maybe a service you want to offer, and suddenly you've got 14 tabs open asking, which website builder? Which domain? Do I need email? Hosting? Why does this suddenly feel like I'm assembling IKEA furniture without instructions? 3 hours later, still no website, still thinking about it. That's why I like Hostinger. Hostinger makes getting started ridiculously easier because everything lives in one place: your website, domain, email, the whole deal. And this part is wild. The AI actually helps build the first version of your website for you. You literally describe what you want, and boom, you're not staring at a blank screen anymore. Look, if you've been sitting on an idea, stop letting setup friction beat you. Go to hostinger.com/darkhorse20 and use code darkhorse20 for 20% off. That's hostinger.com/darkhorse20. Build the thing. Stop overthinking the thing.
The Dark Horse Entrepreneur Podcast.
Then a fifth generates email hooks based on those handles. Then a sixth generates landing page headlines based on those hooks. Then a seventh generates paid ad copy from those headlines. Now you've written 7 prompts, but you're not generating 7 separate pieces of content. You're building a content manufacturing pipeline. The output of step 1 is the input for step 2. The output for step 2 is the input for step 3, and so on. You're not scattered. You are laser focused. And most importantly, every single output in that pipeline is informed by every other output. The landing page copy doesn't contradict the email sequence. The ad copy doesn't undermine the positioning because they're all built on the same foundation. Wire this into Zapier or N8N, and you've got a workflow that generates an entire stack automatically every time a new product steps into your pipeline. And this is where beginners realize they're not competing on prompt quality anymore. They're competing on system design. And system design is something you can actually get better at because there's a deeper issue no one wants to talk about. And this is where I think the moral floor is just going to drop right out from under you. You're building these systems to eventually automate them. Yeah, you're building them so that you can eventually run them with minimal human intervention. And that's where the question becomes uncomfortable. Are you building a system to serve your audience, or are you building a system to bypass them? Because here's the logic. A logic flow system gets better at producing content that people want to read, but it also gets better at producing content that manipulates people into buying things they don't need. The same architecture that builds trust can also build deception. The same feedback loop that improves quality can also optimize for addiction. The same output stacking that creates helpful sequences can also create persuasion funnels that prey on insecurity. The logic flow, it doesn't care about ethics. It's just a tool. A hammer doesn't care what you use it on. It can be used to build or it can be used to destroy. It's an incredibly powerful tool. It can be used to create genuine value, to actually help people make better decisions, to save them time, and to solve their real problems. Or it can be used to extract value, to convince people that they need something that they probably don't, to make insecurity profitable, and to turn attention into addiction. The uncomfortable truth is that both versions use the exact same architecture. Both versions use input architecture and instruction hierarchy and feedback loops and output stacking. The only difference is where you point the system and what you measure as success from that system. Most people who build a logic flow system never consciously choose. They just build it and aim it at whatever opportunity is closest, whatever audience is most available, and whatever market seems most desperate. And then they're surprised when they look back 6 months later and realize that they've optimized for manipulating rather than helping. By then, it's profitable. By then, the system is working and running all on its own, and changing course feels like leaving money on the table. But here's what's really happening. You're not just choosing a business model, you're choosing a version of yourself. The person who builds an architecture to help is a completely different person than the one who builds an architecture to extract. And once you've built the system, once you've seen how well it works, the first version starts getting a little bit harder to justify. This is the real reason most people stay stuck in their prompts. It's safer. It's smaller. It requires less responsibility. A bad prompt is human error. A bad system is an intentional design. The logic flow system works. It works really well. If you implement input architecture, build an instruction hierarchy, create real feedback loops, and stack your outputs strategically, and then automate the whole thing through tools like Make or Zapier, you could make significantly more money than you would with a collection of really good prompts. That's not even debatable. The data is clear. But you're not losing money because your prompts are bad. You're losing and leaving money on the table because you haven't decided which version of the system you're building yet. You can't build the right system until you know what that system is actually for. The architecture is neutral. What you build with it is not. So here's your step-by-step breakdown for building your own logic flow system. Step 1, audit your current workflow. Step 2, build input architecture. Step 3, create instruction hierarchy. Step 4, implement feedback loops. Step 5, design output stacking. And step 6, once you get there, automate the entire pipeline. Look, if you're looking to break free and start building something real, you need to come on over and jump onto the AI Escape Plan newsletter. It's your roadmap designed specifically for my parent entrepreneurs, but it works for everybody. Everyone who's out there ready to break free from the 9-to-5 grind. Each issue delivers practical AI-powered strategies, all designed to start, grow, and streamline your side hustle, all designed to protect your family time too, while still boosting your income. You could call it your roadmap to more money, more freedom, and more of what truly matters. And why does this even matter, Tracy, you may be asking? Well, we're living through the biggest transformation of how work gets done since either the Industrial Revolution or perhaps the invention of the computer. But most people are approaching this like consumers of AI tools rather than the architects of AI solutions. The invisible logic flow model represents, I think, a fundamental shift from selling technology to selling transformation. What bigger paradigm could this be a part of? Well, it could be the rebalancing of enterprise-level capabilities. For the first time in history, someone like you, working from their kitchen table, could deliver solutions that previously required teams of specialists and millions of dollars of infrastructure to back them. The companies that win over the next couple of years to a decade won't be the ones with the best AI. They're going to be the ones who bridge the gap between AI capability and business needs most effectively. The future belongs to those who make powerful technology invisible by focusing relentlessly on the problems they're trying to solve. All that said, here's your whiskered wisdom for this week. The most profitable AI businesses aren't built on better prompts. They're built on better architecture. The prompt is the conversation, the system, the architecture, that's the business. So here's your specific action for this week. Open a blank document right now, as soon as you're done listening to this, and map out your current ChatGPT workflow or whatever AI LLM you're using out there. Write down every single step from idea to published output. Then identify one place where you're making the same decision over and over again. The repeated decision is your first candidate for the instruction hierarchy layer. Don't build the whole system today. That could overwhelm you. Just identify one repeated decision that you're making. Write down exactly what information you need to make it a better decision, a good decision. That's your first piece of input architecture. One layer, one decision, one step towards building a logic flow system that works while you're still out there reading bedtime stories. Look, everyone else is fighting over who has the best ChatGPT prompt, who has the best AI prompt for any of the models out there. You now know the real game to be played. It was never about the prompt. It was always about the architecture underneath the prompt, the input architecture that feeds the AI real data, the instruction hierarchy that removes the guesswork, the feedback loops that make the system smarter over time, and the output stacking that turns one idea into an entire income pipeline. You're not building a prompt. You're building a machine, and your family's freedom is waiting on the other side of you making that shift. Think successfully and take action.
Thanks for listening to Your Success DNA podcast. Whether you're starting out or you're a seasoned entrepreneur, we have the tools and inspiration that you need to take your life to the next level. So stay tuned for more game-changing advice in our upcoming episodes. And hey, before you go, a quick reminder to check out our past episodes of Your Success DNA for more inspiring stories and practical advice. And if you've loved what you heard, leave us a review and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. Let's all level up our lives together, shall we? Remember, your success is in your DNA.
Being outside is good for us. It's that simple. And trails make it easy for us to walk, bike, and be active outside in our own backyards. On the trail, we see people moving, connecting with their communities, making the places where they live great. For 40 years, Rails to Trails Conservancy has led the way, creating trails across the country, making it safer and easier for everyone to get outside. They want you to get involved. Find your trail and start your journey today at railstotrails.org/iHeart and follow at Rails to Trails on social.